torpedoed by some unknown source.
Oh, wow.
In the Gulf of Oman, right off of the Iranian coast. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said it was Iran. They were two. We are not sure because we can't believe the United States anymore,
right,
even though we live there. The U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet, based in Bahrain, said it responded to 2 distress calls from the tankers between 6 and 7. One of the tankers is from a Japanese shipping company. The other is from a Norwegian shipping company. And today's incidents come 1 month after an apparent attack on 4 vessels, also in the Persian Gulf. So let me tell you what's happening here. 30% of the world's oil goes through that little inlet of water called the Strait of Hormuz.
Right.
Okay, it's about maybe the size of the Long Island Sound.
Right.
Okay, on one side is United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. On the other side's Iran.
Right.
Very close. It's like being in New York and Connecticut and looking across the Long Island Sound.
Right.
All right. So 30% of the world's oil. Now let me just tell you in terms of geopolitics. Okay, I'm going to fill you in Bradshaw style.
Okay.
And break it down for you why this is happening.
All right.
United States now is one of the world's largest oil producers because of fracking.
Right.
Which is a very controversial way of extracting oil out of the earth, because you don't drill down, you drill down and then you drill sideways.
Right.
And when you drill sideways and you break up the rock, it pollutes that area where the oil is fracked and brought up. Why? I don't know. I'm not a geologist. I'm just telling you what I read. Okay.
Right.
So a lot of environmentalists don't like it. But a lot of people who are into big business in the United States and geopolitics do like it. Why? Because if you remember in 1979, the United States pumped zero oil. We had an oil crisis. And when Iran and OPEC decided to raise prices, the United States couldn't do anything about it. Anybody who was alive back then, I was about 10 years old.
Yeah.
Anybody who was alive back then would remember that you could only go to the gas station on odd or even days, depending on what your license plate was. So if your license plate ended in an odd number, you had to go on an odd day. And if your license plate ended in an even number, you had to go odd, even. And that was across the United States of America.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there were lines
That's
around the bend.
Yeah.
So now, the United States is one of the world's largest oil producers. In fact, there is a glut of oil in the market for years.
Right.
And it's getting gluttier and gluttier.
Right.
More and more gluttonous.
Too much glut.
Too much glut.
Right.
Okay? So what has happened?
Right.
The price of oil, if you drive a car in the United States of America, has gone down dramatically.
Yeah.
Lots of things have gone up in price. Rent, through the roof. Literally through the roof. Okay? The price of avocados, all right, you can't even buy an avocado anymore.
They're so expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
But you want to know what's cheap?
What?
Oil. Gas, which is why inflation is down in America. If oil and gas go up, inflation will go through the roof. The oil and gas is what keeps inflation low. And even though there are certain things that have become more expensive, there's other things that are less expensive, like oil and gas, which is less expensive now than 20 years ago when compared to other items.
Right.
So, United States, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, they are against Iran. Iran, Lebanon, Syria, they're against maybe even Russia. They're against the United States. United States wants regime change in Iran. They want the Ayatollahs out. Trump is thinking about going to war.
Right.
Now, if anybody knows anything, I'm going to tell you what I would do if I was president,
Right.
assuming I don't even know if I want to change the Ayatollahs. Maybe I want to be friends with them. Okay? I don't know. Okay? But let's assume you want to change them. If you remember, we did not go to war against the Soviet Union. We bankrupted the Soviet Union.
Right.
Okay. So, the prices of oil are going down. Down so much that Iran can't feed their people anymore. And it's sad for them, but if you're in the business of regime change, that would be good for you.
Right.
What would be bad for you is war. Why? Because if you have a war, first of all, presidents don't look good during wars.
Right.
Right.
Okay, unless it's a very quick war. Okay, no such thing as a quick war anymore.
Right.
And number two, if there's a war, all of a sudden 20, 30, 40% of the world's oil is now off the market. What happens?
Skyrockets.
Price of oil skyrockets. All right, so what does that do for Iran? Makes their oil more expensive that they don't ship out through the Strait of Hormuz, but they have pipelines that go to Russia and to Turkey and everywhere else.
Got it.
So now, perhaps, they're more anxious to have a war than the United States because they want to push the price of oil up because they can't keep the price of oil down forever.
Right.
And Trump is really playing right into their hands a little bit.
Right.
Which is why many people think these things are happening in the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So it's about oil prices.
I had no. Thank you. Do you know, Brad? I've got a moment of honesty and transparency that I should admit to right now.
Yes.
I read a whole article, the New York Times article about this exact situation. And I in no way got 1/3 of the understanding or knowledge than the 5 minutes I just listened to you talk about that bad boy.
Which is why you got to watch Bradshaw Live, damn it.
Right.
Pay attention. School's in second.
No kidding. Thank you, Brad.
All right. So meanwhile, after 3.5 years, our wonderful press secretary.
Yeah.
Our wonderful press secretary of the United States, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She
God,
has lied
really?
more for Donald Trump. Okay, then Donald Trump has lied for Donald Trump.
100%.
That's how much she has lied for Donald Trump. As a matter of fact, I don't think anything she says in a press conference, you could almost just keep going, hashtag lie,
Right.
hashtag lie, hashtag lie. And you want to know why you know it's hashtag lie with her?
Why?
Because as she's leaving, Donald Trump says she's a very special person with extraordinary talents.
Oh my God.
Yeah, her extraordinary talent of lying. Okay, who has done an incredible job. I hope she decides to run for governor of Arkansas. Which is now we know why she took all of that abuse. Because there's not a person in the world who doesn't know that she's just lying for Donald
Right.
Trump.
100%.
I didn't know what her end game was.
So is it to run?
It's to be the governor of
Wow. Of
Arkansas. Because it's such a Republican state.
Wow.
And whoever Donald Trump anoints to become the governor is going to become the governor.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what Huckabee's end game was. Now I do
Now
know.
you know.
I'm going to take this freaking abuse and I'm going to lie my ass off for this lying, rotten president so I can become the governor of Arkansas.
Sheesh.
Sure enough, I think that the governorship of Arkansas is up for re-election next year.
Really shocking, right?
Wow.
Right? You don't think Trump said, you lie for me? You lie right out of your ass every day. You just spew lies and propaganda, and I will make you the governor of Arkansas.
I mean, it's smart as hell. She got to step out from Daddy's shadow. We don't
That's
even
right.
think of her as Mike Huckabee's daughter
that's
anymore.
right. As
It
Christy
was a good
Gonzalez
game.
says, shaking my head.
Yep.
Yeah,
Shaking my
'cause
head.
it's literally all a game.
Yeah,
It
it
is
is
a
a
game
game.
to them.
It's an absolute game.
It's absolutely.
It is an
Sheesh.
Here, you want to know? Perfect example. We'll show the interview in a little bit. It's not going to be today. It'll be in a week or two. I interviewed a guy today, and I'm not going to tell you what it was about, but he was a Trump supporter who's no longer a Trump supporter. And he says, I fell for it all hook and ladder, that he's only going to get rid of the bad hombres, okay? But really, he's getting rid of everybody
Every
who's
hombre,
not white and Norwegian, okay? So I said it's all about language, okay? So he says, I just learned recently that there's no such thing as an illegal alien unless you re-enter after prior deportation, which is a very extraordinarily small amount of people. It's undocumented people.
Right.
That's what it is. And I said, it's the power of language trumps, and I hate to use the word Trump, but the power of language trumps everybody. If you call somebody an undocumented human being, doesn't sound like they're doing anything so terrible.
Right.
You call somebody an illegal alien, it sounds like they come from outer space and they're criminals.
Yeah.
And it gets people up in arms. So it's how you describe
You word
somebody
it.
and the label you put on somebody changes everything. I was just watching a documentary on the George Bush years with Cheney, and they wanted to eliminate the estate tax for people who die and leave to their heirs anything over $5 million, because anything over $5 million was being taxed.
Right.
Okay, so how many people do you think that would affect? It's who dies with $5 million in the bank? Okay, a very, 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 very extraordinarily small amount of people. So if you say to somebody, and they were talking about this in focus groups, if you say to somebody, we want to eliminate the estate tax, it sounds like an estate. Wow, it's the rich person's tax. That doesn't affect me. I'm not going to be up in arms over that.
Right.
Right? So then they used focus groups. How else can we call it? What else can we call it? We're going to eliminate the death tax. America taxes you when you're alive, and then they tax you when you're dead. And now calling it a death tax instead of an estate tax got people up in arms.
Right.
Up in arms to a level that they got a majority of America to support that, even though it's only a small percentage of population that actually gets affected. But people are up in arms. It's how you word it.
That's how you word it.
Yeah.
Listen, we are all pawns.
Well, yeah, I hope that I think that way, but sometimes,
we are. That's like it's
how you word
literally
it.
A game.
Right. It's how you word
and we fall for it. We just fall for it.
I think that's exactly why it's so important to make sure that you're reading into stuff that we don't. That is the culture that we live in now, is a culture of just headline reading. And Brett's absolutely right. Words matter. People choose words very, very specifically. Make sure that you dig and form your own opinion.
Yeah. Meanwhile, art installations depicting crying children in cages have popped up across New York City. 20 cages with what appeared to be sobbing children inside were scattered across New York on Wednesday. I have not seen them yet. Have you seen? I haven't seen them. I don't know where they are. They were reminiscent of the images and videos coming out at the U.S. border facilities.
Oh wow!
Now the children inside of these New York City cages, they're not real. They didn't come and they didn't go to PS 221
and put
some kids in cages.
Right.
But they're intended to evoke the same emotions as the children held in detention facilities. The cages are art installations, an idea launched by the ad agency Badger and Winters for a non-profit advocacy group called Refugee and Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services. The hashtag No Kids in Cages campaign immediately drew attention with the chain link cages which were placed in front of various landmarks around Manhattan. The hashtag No Kids in Cages art installation was strategically placed outside of media companies, city landmarks, and tourist destinations. Wow. Now, if you say I am going to put kids in cages, that evokes something too. So it's about time that maybe liberals and progressives are taking the same bag of tricks.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we have some video. Let's see the video. Not only did each cage have a model of a child inside, they also emitted an eerie audio recording of a crying child that was actually smuggled out of a detention center, according to Badger and Winters Press. So what started as a protest over the death of a Memphis man devolved. Devolved.
It did not evolve.
It did not evolve. It devolved into chaos after demonstrators started throwing bricks at police and vandalized squad cars. At least 25 officers and deputies were injured. The turmoil came after U.S. Marshals shot and killed a 20-year-old, Brandon Weber, who was wanted on multiple warrants outside his home. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation said Weber reportedly rammed his vehicle into the officers' vehicles multiple times. News of Weber's death spread quickly. Protesters came out onto the streets. They started hurling rocks at the police. In addition to wounded officers, 2 journalists were also injured. Ironically, protesters targeted Memphis police even though it was the U.S. Marshals.
Oh my God.
It was the federal government that actually shot them. It was not the Memphis police.
Oh no.
But the director of the police and the mayor lauded the Memphis officers for keeping their composure despite being attacked. Now, that's basically all I know. I haven't really looked into this.
Right.
So I don't know whether the U.S. Marshal's office is telling the truth. They're not telling the truth. I would guess in most of these cases, it's usually unarmed black kids and they're shot.
Right.
Not every time.
Right.
But most of the time, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know what happened. I'm going to reserve judgment until I see more, but I suspect what many people suspect. happened, which is why people went out on the street because they said we're tired of this.
Right.
Absolutely.
That would be what I would suspect.
I just think it's so important with these protests, though, of ensuring that they remain nonviolent. Because if you start hurling rocks at police officers, and
sometimes you got to be violent, Kim, to get your point across.
I'm just saying.
I mean,
honestly,
sometimes you got to be violent to get your you know.
How many peaceful protests have we done, and
we're still here.
It just keeps on happening.
That's true.
But Martin Luther King, peaceful.
And
Malcolm X,
not peaceful.
There you go.
Who was more successful?
Oh.
Who was more successful?
I would say Malcolm X.
Why do you say that?
Because at the end, even Martin Luther King said that he felt that he took the wrong route. Like, he felt like the peaceful route didn't really work.
I don't know the answer to that. I was asking you that question because I don't know myself.
No, I do remember reading somewhere where Martin Luther King said it was the way he went around, or like what he believed in and what he preached. There was a point in time where towards the end he was like, well, maybe I was wrong in the way we did it. Because, you know, stuff just kept on happening. It was still happening.
I will say Malcolm X, I believe that Malcolm X did more in terms of getting the African American community politically engaged and politically involved. I think that yeah, absolutely. But who had more impact? That's an impossible question, Brad.
I don't know.
Whew.
I don't have an answer.
I have no clue. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you is what's happening with our friends down in the Dominican Republic.
Oh my
not
God.
my friends, because listen.
What's going on with our friends down in the Dominican Republic?
I'm so sad because I've been wanting to go.
People are disappearing and getting killed on a regular basis. I don't know if this is fake news or
this is
real stuff.
Yeah.
And then David Ortiz, famous baseball player, he was shot. The guy who shot him, because apparently he was having an affair with a drug dealer's wife. And the guy who shot him got paid, the shooter, $7,800 to kill him.
I had not heard.
Yes.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Wait, he was having sex with a drug dealer's wife?
That's the allegation.
Oh, I had not heard
and the drug dealer's wife, and the drug dealer found out.
Issued a hit.
And issued a hit on him.
Oh,
now, the National Police Director, Major General Ney Aldrin Bautista Almonte, said the coordinator of the attack was offered 400,000 Dominican pesos, or about $7,800, to orchestrate the shooting. Ortiz is one of the most beloved figures in sports history.
Right.
From the Dominican Republic. He was a Boston Red Sox. He was Big Papi. He was a big home run hitter. The bullet luckily struck him in the back, went right through his stomach, was not lodged in his body, and apparently he's going to live.
Golly.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
How lucky
now, when he got brought over to the emergency room, he said to the doctor, "Please don't let me die. Please don't let me die." And apparently it was iffy for a while, but they were able, luckily, to save him. Now, the alleged gunman fled, but onlookers attacked Feliz Garcia and then handed him over. So onlookers came and just jumped the guy.
Right.
Shortly after the shooting, Ortiz was rushed to the hospital, as I said, and he will be making a big recovery. A son is suing a company for $1 million, along with the return of his father's frozen head.
Huh?
Yeah. Laurence Pilgeram agreed to pay a company $120,000 to preserve his body indefinitely at a temperature of 196 degrees Celsius until one day when science would be able to revive him and he would be able to come back and be alive.
Okay.
But in April 2015, about a month before Pilgeram died in California, a box containing his ashes arrived at the home of his, about a month after he died.
Right.
Not before. That would be weird. The box containing his ashes arrived at his home, the home of his son, Kurt. But his head had been separated and placed in a vat of liquid nitrogen in Arizona, where it presumably will remain forever, or until Mr. Pilgeram finds a new body to put the head on.
Get out of here.
Now Pilgrim's son is seeking in excess of $1 million in damages and an apology from Alcor Life Extension Foundation, along with the return of the head of my father.
Oh.
There's only one person. There's only one person who can get the head of Laurence Pilgeram back. Julian, bring me the head of Laurence Pilgeram.
Please, where is it?
For its part, Alcor said it has an agreement with Laurence, not his son, and that it will meet his agreement. The company accuses Kurt, the son, of trying to receive the life insurance funds earmarked for Alcor for the cryonic preservation under the guise that he was concerned about unspecified issues with the cryonic preservation of Mr. Pilgrim's cephalon.
What the?
I don't know what that means. I'm just reading the cards as I read it.
This is head, I think.
Yes. Now, nearly 170 people, 122 men and 42 women, have their heads in liquid nitrogen at this company.
What?
They have been crypto-preserved
That's
at
so disgusting.
Alcor, which says it is the largest organization ever involved in this process. It has an additional 1,200 members who have made legal and financial. Now they just keep the head. Keep the head.
But why? And what are they going to do with just a head?
I don't know. I mean, but the head is like minus. How much? What is it? Minus what? 170?
70,
196 degrees below Celsius. Can you imagine? Because, your brain feels all the cold. And you get put on a body and 1,000 years from now, you're like, oh my God, it's freezing in here, right? Wouldn't you be?
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Dude, look at... Oh, he's going to use your body. Bad.
Julian, bring me the head of Laurence Pilgeram. Thanks for watching. For more Bradshaw Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.